It's not okay for you to be a weak loser. It's not okay. And the reason it's not okay is because you could be way more than that. And it's a crime, an ethical crime, for you to allow all that necessary potential to go to waste. It hurts you, it hurts your family, it hurts the world. Really, really, it does. I do think that if you sit on the edge of your bed and things aren't going very well for you, and you ask what foolish thing you're doing to make it worse, that you'll get an answer right now. And it won't be the one you want, but it might be the one that if you listen to would set things straight. I think that's almost, I don't think that I've ever been in a situation where if something wasn't going right for me and I sat and thought, okay, all right, I'm willing to figure out what I'm doing wrong, which is a big thing to think because you never know how much you're doing wrong. It might be something that you really don't want to contend with. But if you clear some space to meditate on that, the probability that you'll figure out something that you did that was stupid, that's bending you and twisting you in the wind, you'll get an answer very, very rapidly. Well, you should be afraid of taking risks and pursuing something meaningful. But you should be more afraid of staying where you are if it's making you miserable. It's like the first thing you want to do is dispense with the idea that you get to have any permanent security outside of your ability to contend and adapt. It's the same issue with children. It's like you're paying a price by sitting there being miserable. You might say, well, the devil I know is better than the one I don't. It's like, don't be so sure of that. The clock is ticking. Yeah. And if you're miserable in your job now and you change nothing, in 5 years you'll be much more miserable and you'll be a lot older. It's a luxury to pursue what makes you happy. It's a moral obligation to pursue what you find meaningful. And that doesn't mean it's easy. It might require sacrifice. If you need to change your job too, let's say you have a family and children and a mortgage, you have responsibilities. You've already picked up those responsibilities. You don't just get to walk away scot-free and say, well, I don't like my job, I quit. That's no strategy. But what you might have to do is you think, well, this job is killing my soul. All right, so what do I have to do about that? Well, I have to look for another job. Well, no one wants to hire me. It's like, okay, maybe you need to educate yourself more. Maybe you need to update your curriculum vitae, your resume. Maybe you need to overcome your fear of being interviewed. Maybe you need to sharpen your social skills. Like, you have to think about these things strategically. If you're going to switch careers, you have to do it like an intelligent, responsible person. That might take you a couple of years of effort to do properly. If you could have what you needed and wanted, what would it be? What sort of friends would you have? What would your family relationships look like? How would you conduct yourself with your children? How would you educate yourself? You need to think through how it is that your life could be properly arranged if you had that ability. And then you can aim at that. And the funny thing is that if you do posit a goal of that sort and work towards it, you will move towards it. The goal will change because you'll learn things along the way. But I mean, I've dealt with hundreds of people in my clinical and consulting practice, and we set a goal, we develop a vision and work towards it, and things inevitably get better for people. So it's not a luxury, it's difficult. It's a moral responsibility, and it isn't happiness. Meaning is what you have to buttress yourself against the tragedy of life. It's like engagement. We're having an engaging conversation. We'll walk away from this, and hopefully the people who are watching, they'll walk away and they'll think that was worthwhile. It's like, okay, think about what that means. Mm-hmm. It means that despite the fact that you're a fragile, damaged, mortal creature, you found something to do that announced itself as worthwhile. Mm-hmm. That's meaning. It's an instinct. Like it's a deep, deep instinct. It's maybe the deepest instinct. It's like a form of vision, except it's not like an embodied sense. It's not a specified sense. Meaning tells you when you're in the right place. And the right place is between chaos and order. And those are real places. Your hemispheres, like your right hemisphere is roughly evolved, let's say, to deal with things you don't understand. That's chaos. And your left is there to deal with things you do understand. And you can't just stay with the things you do understand because you already understand them. And you can't just stay with what you don't understand because then you're lost. Yeah. Well, you need to be in the middle of those two. And you can tell when you're in the middle because everything lines up. and you feel engaged and that what you're doing is meaningful. It's like, that's what you pursue. Expedience is you do the thing that gets you off the hook the fastest right now. Well, you play that game across time, it doesn't work. It sends you down because you're sacrificing the future for the present. Meaning doesn't do that. Meaning says, I'm here where I should be. And you can't tell why, it's just that everything is right. And you get this physiological sense. Right place, right time, right conversation. You know? And that's usually a conversation where you're both trying to expand the way that you look at the world. Well, so you follow this meaningful path. That's your buttress against the tragedy that produces resentment and malevolence. Meaning is the antidote to that. And that's the fundamental religious truth. And it's really true. That's the thing that's so... Life is suffering. That's true. There's malevolence. That's true. Meaning is the antidote to that. Yes. And it's not some kind of fragile epiphenomena. It's the deepest thing. So people need to know that. It's so important to know that. People say, well, meaning isn't real. It's like, no, that's wrong. It's actually the most real thing. It might even be more real than suffering and evil. It's possible. And I think about this technically. This isn't a metaphysical assumption that I'm making. And you do feel it. You feel it in your body. It's not just a mental thing. It's not an idea. Mm-hmm. It's a place. It's a place. Because we're in time and space, right? And a place is a place, 3 dimensions of space, but it's also a time. And when the place and the time are set up properly, you're in the right place. And your brain is telling you that. Your being is telling you that. Yeah, you got it right. Right? It's going to fall apart because you're not going to be there all the time. Yeah, well, you say, you go see a great movie. It's like, hey, you're in the right place at the right time, and you're engaged. You're completely engaged in it. It's because there's no other way to put it. You're in the right place at the right time, and the meaning is the signal of that. And so the purpose of profound religious contemplation, in some sense, in the deepest sense, profound philosophical contemplation, is to learn how to be in the right place at the right time all the time. Now, you can't, because you're not perfect, but you can be there a lot more than you are, and you can actually practice it. You practice it by paying attention. You watch yourself during the day like you don't know who you are, or what you're doing. And you notice, oh yeah, right there, I was listening to that piece of music, or I was having that conversation, or I was doing this piece of work. Then I was there for like 10 minutes. Okay, why? I was doing something right. I don't know what it is. I wasn't doing something wrong. And so I got this little illuminated moment. It's like, okay, I need to figure out how to be there more often. So there's this line from the Gospel of Thomas, which was discovered in like 1957. And it says, the kingdom of God is spread out before the eyes of men, but men do not see it. That's basically it. And that's kind of what it's referring to. It's like there are times when you're in the right place at the right time, and then you're where you should be. And you don't notice that. You don't say, oh, look, wow, there's something about this. This is right. I got to figure out how to do this more. It's like you're in the right place at the right time. Okay, why? What did I do right? What did I do? I need to do more of that. So maybe it's only half an hour a week when you first start noticing. And then maybe with 3 months of practice, you can get it up to like an hour a day. And then maybe you can get it up to 4 hours a day. And God only knows where you could get it if you keep practicing, You can be there. We don't know what the upper limit of that is. No one can live without a routine. You just forget that. If you guys don't have a routine, I would recommend, you get one going, because you cannot be mentally healthy without a routine. You need to pick a time to get up. Whatever time you want, but pick one and stick to it, because otherwise you dysregulate your circadian rhythms and they regulate your mood. Genie is the root word for genius. There's this unlimited power that's associated with genius, but it's constrained. And that's really what the human spirit is like, because it has this aspect of the infinite, right? And it is something that can grant wishes, but it's also constrained terribly. We're constrained mortally and physically and all that. But the thing is that both the infinite possibility and the constraint are necessary. Right? That's what makes up the genie. It has to be both at the same time. And the idea that, if you find your genie, you can have your wishes. It's right. But you have to really You have to want what you're wishing for, right? You have to make the proper sacrifices to get it. It can't be just some whim. You think, well, I wish I had whatever
Sure.
it is you're wishing for.